up to you.
Yeah. We have a meeting now?
Yeah. You
Yes,
are.
you want if you understand.
Sorry, say again? Why do you look confused, Ben?
I know, I just think it's funny that again you tried to open the
It's because I don't expect you in here, because you never really work.
Oh,
Yeah.
Only investigate airport hours. Yeah, no, like in the morning, I think.
Oh yeah, and I replied.
You should check my email.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, I emailed. No, absolutely, that's cool. And I even said if you want to meet earlier, that's fine too.
Oh,
Which is cool. How are you?
alright. So this thing stayed pretty much the same. I didn't find out more, but I started asking people since Marcus told me to stop. Made it very clear. And so right now I'm not sure what I should do again about this situation because it still affects me in a way. I think it's because of this. I'm not sure, but it's most likely because of this. And I just don't know what I should do since Marcus told me, okay, avoid the topic. Don't. If people ask you about this, just tell them forget. Just change the topic. What I should do? What I should do about it? What's your opinion? What's recommendation for me?
Since I spoke to you, has anybody else ever raised it?
No, I think I talked to a few people about it.
But you brought it up, not them.
No, but they asked questions after I talked to them.
Okay.
But then Marcus made it very clear, okay, stop talking about it to anyone. Just don't ask anyone. So I stopped asking about this. But the reaction of the people, which I told you about, didn't change that much. Not in the sense that they're giving me clues about this, but in the sense that there's something wrong. And since this was a long time ago, it's possible that it is this. It's most likely something related to this. So right now I'm a bit confused. I'm not sure what to do. So yeah.
Okay. So my thinking is one of two things. So either there's some misreading happening here, so you feel that there's something that there isn't, which is a possibility. Another possibility is that a couple of people are being dicks, and they are elaborately playing a joke.
Okay.
So they're teasing you, right? So that they are. So like your question was, why did they change that group to YSE? You know. So
No, that's the people there. I don't think any of the people in that group are related to this.
Okay.
I just think the whole school knows, and this was one of the many things that people did to let me know that I'm involved in this thing. But I never said that people from that the group are involved.
Okay.
But this was written, so it stayed there. So that's why I showed it to you, because there are a lot of other stuff which just happened, and I can show it to you.
You can't show it. Yeah. And I hear that.
Yeah, but I honestly don't think any of the people in that group, in the YSC group, have ever had anything to do with this.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure about that.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So my thing is, so if there are, I don't see any evidence that anybody is being negatively affected by the situation right now, apart from you, who's being very negatively affected.
Oh, all right. Yes.
Do you agree?
This makes sense because if other people weren't involved, I don't see why they would be negatively affected, especially if it's been so much time. Because maybe in the beginning they were, because they don't like this whole thing happening.
Yeah.
But right now, since people stop talking about it, and everyone try to start to calm it down, if people don't think about it and it's nothing related to them, then of course it doesn't affect them. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, did anyone of the teachers or talk to anyone who I mentioned, for example, from the YC group, or I don't know?
Not that I know of, but I mean they could have without my knowing. because I'm not part of it. I'm not part of it.
Okay.
All I know about you is from what I've heard about from Marcus. That's
Okay.
it.
Mhm.
And Marcus has never told me.
Anything about that group?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Is your question, have any teachers spoken to students in...
Might. I don't know. I asked about it because Marcus told me he only spoke to Vasya and Sophie about this because they were the main people involved in this. And I was just curious if he talked to anyone else or if any of the other teachers talked to other students, because I think I should know since I was the one who asked Marcus this.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea. I haven't heard that anybody has,
Okay.
but I also haven't heard that anybody hasn't. I mean, but that's got nothing to do with me. Like, so I wouldn't necessarily have heard, right?
Okay. For example, the thing with the YSC, I only showed it to you, so Marcus shouldn't know about it unless he told me. I don't know. I think.
I'm confused. Say again?
So that thing with the YSC group,
Yeah.
I think from the teachers, you're the only one who I showed that. So yeah, I was just curious if you talked to Marcus about it or.
Oh, Marcus mentioned the YSE group.
So
and
he knew about that. So.
Oh, okay. And your question is, does he know that from me or does he know that from someone else?
Yeah, because I don't remember showing him that.
Oh no, that's from me.
So you talked with Marcus
Yeah.
about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I was just curious if after you talked to him, he talked to other people to ask questions and maybe he got some answers or something. So I was just curious.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Mhm.
So, like, when I asked you about what I could say to Marcus, in terms of, like, is there truth behind it or whatever, what I said to Marcus is, I don't know what the bigger picture is,
Okay.
but then I gave the example, but I said, but for example, an example of where Paul is suspicious is that there was this group. So I said, so, like, that's an example of where, if people are being idiots, that's an example where maybe they are being idiots.
No, it's not what I meant. What I showed you back then was that thing is one of the things people did to let me know that they think I'm involved in that. But I never said that those people are part of this.
Oh no, and I didn't say that you did either.
Okay.
At all. No, that's.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what he said?
No, I'm not sure because I don't think he asked me about that. I don't think I ever talked to Marcus about this.
Okay.
Like this specific part, the YC group. So.
Right. Okay. So I mentioned that, but from my perspective, not from what you had said about it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
If Marcus is around, do you want him to be here?
I don't mind, but I was like, if he's here, yeah, why not?
Okay.
But it was just an opinion right now because I'm really kind of don't know what to do. So
Yeah. No, I can
talk
get
to
that.
someone with experience.
No, I can get that. I go back to that binary possibility that either you are misreading the situation or there is something. But, so you're either what you're experiencing or your perceptions are correct or they're not. It's one or the other.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So I look at it and I think, what should your actions be if it is correct or if it's not correct? I think what makes sense, if your perceptions are not correct, it makes sense to me to try and let it go, and we can talk about how that happens. If your perceptions are correct, it still makes sense to me to let it go. Because, okay, so the letting it go if your perceptions aren't correct is self-explanatory. The letting
It's really easy.
Yeah, it's self-explanatory. But the letting go, if it is correct, is what could people's motivations be? I see no evidence that now anybody actually believes that you did something that you didn't.
Yes, but there's a problem. You're a teacher, so that is very different from being a student in the school. Because if people talk once, not saying they do now, but if they did before, I suppose they talked between students. I don't think they met with you and they were like, Simon,
Is your perception that people do currently believe that you did something you didn't?
I think they do, but I don't think they still talk about it. I think they do, and it's kind of not a thing that happened now. It's like something in the past, and it's not affecting them now. It shouldn't affect me either. But people still have that, I think, in the back of their mind. So it's not that they think about that, but like it makes sense that when you see someone and you know they did something bad, you have a different reaction. But that's not because they remember that on the spot, but it just influences them because they once thought that, so they have they have that perception.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain that.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So what evidence do you have, or what leads you to come to the conclusion that people do think, even though they're not thinking about it now, but that people have that belief that you were guilty of something that you didn't do?
So as I told you, those reactions, which many of them can't be proved because they happen. Some of them could have been proved, but for example, they're not there. They were in internet but disappears. Their posts that disappears after 24 hours. I should post them. Their other posts, someone just deleted them, and nothing was very clear that it is about that. But it was there were always elements which suggested that. So one of them, only one of this, like I showed you the group, right? Can't really say anything only from that. You agree with me because it's a joke. It's someone from, maybe there was a joke between them. It has nothing to do with me. But if you take all that into account, and I could, let's say, possibly show all of it, it would make sense that it is about that. It still wouldn't completely prove it, but it would be like a strong evidence for it. And then it's the reaction of people, which they had the everyday reaction at school, right? And I don't know if I could show you on the TV screen all that. It would be, I think, enough to convince people and to actually, like, yeah, you know what I mean. I can do that. So
Okay, so the evidence which is convincing to you is your experience of what you see and what you interpret that to mean.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we all work. You know, we see
Yes,
things, we
yes.
interpret it. That's normal. That's normal. So now let me give you an example of something as a question. So I once had a patient who was deeply, deeply upset with me. And I was trying to work out why he was upset with me.
Because of you, or just with everyone?
Well, he was upset with a lot of things, but then one day he was upset with me specifically.
Okay.
And I was trying to work out why. And he said, no, I'm upset with you because you've told everybody my secrets, and I'm embarrassed and I'm hurt. And I thought, I would never do that, you know. And I was like, why do you think that? And eventually, he opened up with why he believed it. And this is what happened. One day, he came in to see me, and he walked through that door, and Alice, the girl who sits over there, was listening to something through her headphones, and she was laughing when he walked in. And he walked in and saw her laughing. And he thought, you know, he saw something, and then he interpreted it, and he thought, she's laughing at me. She's laughing at me. Simon must have told her something. So he saw something, and he interpreted it a certain way. Now, how could I convince him that what he interpreted from what he saw was wrong? I
talk
can't.
to that person.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and then he'll say, well, no, but then, you know, she's obviously just saying that to protect the situation. I don't know, whatever. So
Yeah,
I think
I get the logic.
yeah, they get the logic. So now we're in a position where I cannot tell you whether your interpretations are correct or not correct, because I haven't seen them. Even if I did see them, who's to say my interpretation is right and yours is wrong?
Yes. One more thing about your example. This patient you had for one person, and it was nothing specific. Just saw a person with headphones looking at her phone, the screen, and laughing. So it didn't suggest anything. It was just a person laughing, and she had a headphone in, so it suggested it could be something else. And it was one person. In my case, there were a lot more people, and their reaction wasn't just simply, for example, avoidance or not ignorance, but that when someone sees them, then they're not okay. There's something wrong. It wasn't only this. It came with let's say reasons. I don't know how to call them. Why? So there's little clues I told you about. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, yours is clearly more convincing than his. So I'm not saying that they're equally convincing.
Yeah.
But it's just an example of, so maybe I just described to you what he saw. If he told you, he might have said, and then when I walked in, she looked at me in a certain way. And he might have seen more than I'm able to say.
Okay.
So, and yours is probably still much more convincing. I'm not saying it's not. But all the principle of what I'm trying to say is, I cannot comment on the validity of what you've observed and interpreted, because I can't. And you know I can't, and I know I can't. So I'm not going to try.
Yes, okay, I get that.
Yeah, there's no value. I can't guess. But if people did believe that you were part of that, that's unfair. It's not a just situation. As far as I understand from what you've told me, if people thought you were guilty, they would think, you took it? Vasya. You took it from him? Vasya. Then they would think of him the same as you, that he's as guilty. Right?
Oh, yes. I don't know how much I talked to you, because I also talked to Marcus, like very detailed about this. There was, in the beginning, I thought people just thought I told Vasya's secret about this, when this didn't happen. So what I was trying to do was explain Vasya, okay, look, you told me about it, you told me not to tell people, and I didn't, right? So I talked to you and I explained this. After this, I realized, okay, if people's reaction is this bad, it can't be that. It has to be something else. So I've seen, okay, but wait a minute, no one is having this reaction towards him. So if people know about this, and everyone seems to be angry at me and mad at him, and he's not telling me something is also very obvious, it makes sense to believe that he blamed it on me. And after that, so I asked him, I asked Sophie as well, and there should be no reason for Sophie, for example, to lie about this, because she would just it would just change the person who did it, but it wouldn't change the situation. So I don't see why she would do that. And also I asked other people, and everyone, I didn't ask that many people, but once I asked, either said this, that okay, we know Vasya did it, either said we don't know anything, I don't know anything about this. So then I didn't continue telling them the whole story, because if they don't know, it makes sense to not tell them anything. Also when I talked to Marcus, he told me everyone who he talked to told me the exact same thing. Vasya took this once, he showed it to me, and I'm bringing it up for nothing. So from this, I just since there's still something about this, right? I assume it's not that. And I think, oh, what can it be? Because okay, people know he did this. People confirmed me he was the one who took it, but they're still angry at me. So the only thing that in my mind makes sense to make people have this reaction is like, what can you do with the photo, right? You can share it. So I thought he found a way to share it and blame it on me, which makes no sense, because if he would do that, he would do it in his name. Like, I don't know, he would send it to a friend, but it would be him who would do that, not me, because I didn't even have those photos, right?
But do you hear what you're doing? It's like you've created a whole big possibility.
Yeah, it's nothing certain. It's a possibility for that would possibly result in that reaction. It's not. I'm not saying this happened. I'm not even saying he did something. But since he was the only one I heard about this before, I assume he was the only one who could do this. Because I'm not saying he did, but it's most likely that he did. And that would have made sense. But also someone would have told me, because you see, when you do something like this, let's say that theoretically he could do this, it wouldn't make sense that everyone would believe the same thing, right? Because it would be maybe what can he do? He change the name of a contact if he's no a friend change the name of his contact to my name. Let's say possibility. And then let's say he sent this, and then take a screenshot and send it to people. Okay, look what Paul showed me. But this I don't think this would work because if I do that, for example, many people think this guy doesn't know anything. He keeps asking what's happening. And if I can do that as well, I can change the name of the contact. So they would realize it. So it makes sense in a way, it doesn't make sense in another way. So it's really complicated.
Can I give you another example where I think it doesn't make sense?
Hmm?
So my understanding from Marcus is the people that are upset now is they're upset because they want this to be dropped. Because they're not wanting to keep talking about this.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those, for example, is what's her name? Anne-Sophie. Is her name Anne-Sophie or Sophie?
Anne-Sophie again, but yeah, I call her Sophie.
Sophie. Okay.
Yeah.
So including her. So she's saying, just I don't want to talk about this anymore. Just leave me alone. That's my understanding.
Yes.
If it had happened that people really believed you had done something because he had changed the name of the contact, etc.
Yeah.
She would have come forward with that. She would have said,
Yes.
that would have helped her. Right in the beginning, she just said to Marcus, this is what Paul's done, that's not acceptable. And she hasn't done that. She said, I know Paul hasn't done anything, can we drop this?
Yes, this is one more thing. When she found out, let's say, I have other reasons to believe she found out about this before, but she's saying, now she's saying that she only got to know about this when I talked to her. Even then, when that happened, she didn't go to Marcus straight away. She waited, I think, a month, and she didn't went because someone took photos of her. She went to say that someone keeps bringing this up with no reason, and it doesn't really make sense. But I think the other part is more let's say annoying. I don't know how to call it. Then someone trying to find out what happened, and still not. I didn't ask the whole school. I asked her, asked Vasya, asked a few of Vasya's close friends, and there's maximum 5-6 people in total who I asked, right? And at one point she told me, okay, the whole school knows this, but there's a problem because the people I asked who knew about it, then I mentioned her name, but people who said they don't know, they didn't mention her name. I only mentioned Vasya's name, and I barely said it's about a photo. I didn't really details say anything else. And that kind of, I don't know, I feel like there's something wrong with that, because...
well, it depends. When she says the whole school, I'd want to know what she means. Because for her, she might have had 4 people say it to her, and then, oh my God, everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those, does she mean 20 people, or does she mean 4 people?
Yes, what thing where I want to get to is I think she knew about this before I talked to her, because there's the reason I talked to her. Like, imagine this, so Vasya was one of my best friends at the beginning of the year. He told me not to tell anyone, so I suppose especially not tell the person who took the proposal, right? It makes a lot of sense. So if I got to talk to Vasya, I think 20 times before I talked to her, and some things which she said didn't make sense, and I had reasons to, like a lot of reasons from people's reaction, including Sophie's reaction, to believe, okay, something about this, people think I did. So it made sense to talk to her. So I did that, and her reaction was the same as Vasya, and the same kind of message went out of that. So it was, okay, thank you. Now I know who took that, but I think she already knew that. But why would I just go to her, okay, look, this guy did this with no reason. It doesn't help me, because if he would get to know that I did this, he'd be pissed and it just caused more problems. It wouldn't help her because I'm just making a problem, right? It don't help anyone, right? So I wouldn't just do this for no reason, okay? So then, and something is not okay there. And that's why I feel like something happened there. I don't know, it could be that she found out about this before, and okay, Vasya, let's say, she apologized for that. It was, let's say, okay. But then whatever he said about me, and I didn't do anything because I didn't know what it is, right? So he thought, okay, well, there are two people, they did this, and then with those photos and Paul did this. And okay, but this guy apologized, this guy acts like nothing happens, and right now he also starts people asking what happened as he didn't do anything. So I'm not saying it happened like this, but it's a possibility